Hello number ones, welcome back to my channel. This is the Metatron speaking. Today we have an informal talk and we're going to discuss about this concept of the times in which we are living and the times to come. Well, you see, of course there are some people that struggle, and there are some people who are poor, or people who don't have a job, for example. But to be honest, if you think about it, and sometimes I stop to think, particularly when I study history, I stop to think, and I think of, for example, we don't even have to go all the way back to the Middle Ages. We can just think of our grandfathers and that generation. They lived war. So we're talking about a period of time where, never mind not having the latest model of iPhone, the real problems were you might not have something to eat. So we are in a privileged time. And I know, again, some people are struggling, but considering the fact that I'm talking to a huge amount of people, I think most of you at least have got food in your home, right? And I myself feel fortunate for what I have. Many things we give for granted, we take for granted. And I see that because I work at school. So I see the kids in our day and age, they've got the latest model of iPhone and iPhone 7 and iPhone 8 and iPhone 2000. And sometimes some kids are like, they are, for example, they are depressed because they can't afford the latest PlayStation, okay? And so imagine how different it is for people who actually experience real poverty, for people who can't eat 3 times a day, or perhaps can't even eat more than once a day. And there are people like that in our day and age, and of course there were people like that in the past, particularly during times of war. Now, what I'd like to share with today's video, and the message I'd like to give, particularly to young people out there, is that it is in time of abundance that we need to save for the critical times, for the tough times, for the times in which there is need. And this is something that I always keep in mind. And one of the things that I think is rather important is food storage. And this is going to be the first of many topics that today we're going to talk about, that we're going to tackle. So, do I do food storage? Absolutely. I've been doing it for years, and I think it's a very important thing. Why? Because you see, food and water, of course, is the basis for everything, and not just for you, but for you and your family. Being able to provide for yourself and for your family should be the most important thing of all. Now, of course, you might think, well, but in order to get food, I need to have money. And if I have enough money, then I can always provide for food. Food doesn't cost that much. Well, imagine that there is a period of a natural disaster, like something really bad, or perhaps a big world war, or you have the outbreak of a disease, a pandemic. Well, in these cases, money might not even be useful anymore. And with this, and I will get to the financial part as well in this video. So with this, I don't mean that you shouldn't save money. Of course you should save money, but it is important you don't only save money, because the money you have in your bank account at the moment might be worth nothing in the future. So you shouldn't only count on that, but you shouldn't always count on the idea of, I've got this money in my bank account, and whenever I need, I can go to the supermarket and get all the food I need. Because if a war happens and something really bad happens and people start to freak out, they're just going to go to supermarkets and steal stuff. What are you going to feed yourself with? You're not going to be able to eat your dollars. You're not going to be able to eat euros. So this is why I think it's rather important for these times of need that you have your food storage. Now, food storage is not a difficult thing to do. Of course, when you storage food, you need to consider to save, to put aside things that can last very long, possibly years. And there are many different kinds of things like that, and you can easily find them doing a little research on Google. You can, rice, wheat, pasta, basic things, beans, all these things that can last for a very long time. I think for me, what I do is that 3 months worth of food tends to be in my home as much as I can. This way, of course, it doesn't mean I always eat the same things. I try to vary my diet as much as I can, but I always have these things stored in a dry and cool place. And what I try to do also is try to avoid putting packaged stuff on the floor. I try to put them on top of shelves in order to allow air for circulation. And, with time, you can also start rotating. So if you've got things that are starting to get closer to expiration date, accumulate, then you can start using those, get the new stuff, and do that sort of thing. If you are well organized, it's not going to be difficult. Now, what about financially? I mean, getting all this extra food and extra water might be a financial burden. Well, it doesn't have to be, because what I do is that I sort of have, we can call them like installments. I separate all of this throughout the month. So first of all, I do a little simple calculation. I consider how much food, how much pasta, how much whatever it is that I eat do I need to feed myself and, for example, my family or my closest friends for one day. Then I take that amount, let's say, like, for example, 400 grams of pasta, 300 grams of beans, I don't know, you calculate what you normally eat, and then I multiply that for 7, so I know how much I need for a week, and then I multiply that for a month, for 3 months, and then you know exactly the amount of food you should have. And again, 3 months is what I choose. Of course, you can choose your own amount of time, but I think at least a month should be minimum for your safety and security in times of need again. And perhaps you'll never need, but it's still going to be nice to have food in your home, because if it's Sunday, everything is closed, or it's a holiday and you forgot to go, to the supermarket, or you're too busy, you always have food in your home, and it's not a problem. You never run out of water. But in times of need, if those times were to come, you'll be so thankful that you have done this, because whatever happens, no matter how much people freak out, no matter what sort of riot you find yourself in, you'll always be able to provide for yourself and for your family in your home, as far as food and water is concerned. Now, a similar thing can also be done, of course, for medicines. You can have some very basic medicines in your home, always making sure to check the expiration date. So you can just, so as I was saying, in order for it not to be a financial burden, you can just buy a little bit every month, like just a little bit. So at the end of the year, you've got everything covered, and that's what I do, to have my 3 months worth of food. Now, moving to finances now. So what do I think about saving up money? As I said, in an extreme situation, you might find yourself that actually the bank where you had your money got bombed, and there is a huge outbreak, a pandemic, a war, something crazy happens, and the money you had means nothing. Well, this is why what I do is, let's say that, you've got your salary, you've got a certain amount of money, and you got to pay your bills, you got to pay your rent, you got to buy your food, and then you've got something left. For example, let's say you've got $400 left, right? Now, what I do is that I take those $400 and I remove 10%, so $40 in this case, and this is what I can use for luxury. So I can, treat myself. I can buy a video game, I can put them, save them to later on buy, for example, a weapon if I get a few months, put together some stuff. I could buy something, anything that I just want to go out, buy some new clothing. I can go out with my friends and eat out and have fun together. I can watch a film, order a pizza. So all these things that are luxury, I take from 10%. This is my own percentage. Of course, you can change it. I'm a little strict, but I prefer doing this. Then I've got another 90%. From this 90%, I'm going to remove another normally 20 to 30%, and this is the money that I put in my budget to invest. Let's say $100, okay? I'm just not going to waste time calculating at the moment. Let's say you got another $100, and I use it to invest for things that will earn me more money in the future, or have this possibility. For example, stuff for the channel, stuff that I can use to make content which will produce revenue. Or for example, if there is a new job and you're like, oh, I'd like to do this job, it will be very good, but I need to go there by car and I need money for fuel for the first month, and then I'm gonna get reimbursed. Then you've got the money, you can cover that, you can start your job. Or I need a microphone because I want to start singing, but without this microphone or without this keyboard, I can't go to a pub and play. No problem, you can invest that money for producing more income. And then all the remaining 60% is going to my safe. This is how I do it. As far as investing money is concerned though, this way, even if I lose, all the money that I had put aside for whatever reason, I have had some fun with it, so at least, and that's important for your psychological, you can't just make money and save it, make money, save it, make money, save it. You can't do that. You have to have a little bit, you need to treat yourself a little bit. And again, I do it with 10%, that's just my choice. You take yours, but be careful not to spend all the money you have. If you earn $500, you can't buy yourself something that is $500, that costs $500, because if there is need afterwards, if you're like, you got $500 and it's like, oh, I got nothing at the moment, so yeah, there is this jacket I really like, $500, good, I'm gonna buy it. So you get your jacket, or you get your game, or you get your PlayStation, whatever it is, and then a month later, you've got like, oh my goodness, all my friends are going to this trip to Greece. I really wanted to go, but I can't afford it now. I shouldn't have bought that jacket, for example. Or you meet like a wonderful girl or a wonderful boy, ideal partner, and then this person lives in another town, and like, oh gosh, I wanted to spend this holiday with her or with him, but I can't, I don't have the money. And then you're like, what am I going to do? So for that kind of situation, this is why I always say, don't overspend, don't spend everything you've got. Keep it there for emergency, and also because something might happen and you might need that money. You want the $500 jacket, wait a year, put everything aside, 6 months perhaps, and then when you reach an extra within the 10% or $500, you can get yourself that thing. This is how I manage my finances. This is how I have been managing my finances since I was a university student. And I did not have much money back then. Not that now I'm rich. I'm not rich, but of course, at least I'm independent. Back then, it was really tough. Sometimes I had to eat once a day to buy the books. So this is why that experience taught me how to manage money. And then eventually when I started getting money from university through my scholarships, because I had high marks at university, and I said I could manage my money properly. I could go to Japan, spend some time there to practice the language, pay everything for myself, and then find a job, start getting a revenue, getting an income, wages, etc. Now, talking about more in details about investing money in something important for the future, there is also something else that is important to do, and that is investing your money for learning. Why? Because you buy yourself a PlayStation, there is a thunderstorm, and then power goes down, PlayStation gets fried. You don't have it, okay? If it's within warranty, good. If it's outside the warranty, it's gone. You buy yourself a nice car, you got a car accident, you lose the car. So objects you get, you can always lose. The money you save, you can still lose. They can steal it from you. Something could happen. But the things you learn, nobody's ever going to be able to take away. This is why I've invested a certain portion of my money over the years to learn, for example, languages. And I speak 7 languages. And this is something that nobody can take from me. And even if something really crazy happens, these skills will remain. And learning skills that are practical would be a very good thing to do. Martial arts is a good idea. Learning how to fight, learning how to protect yourself. Shooting range, learning how to operate a firearm might be also again an interesting and important thing to learn to do, because you never know in life, in the future, what could happen, what you have to do perhaps to protect yourself and your family. I hope it never happens, but you never know. You never know. You always have to be prepared for the worst case scenario, so that you will never, if you are prepared, you shall not fear. Other skills are building skills, constructing things. Are you good at orientation? Do you know how to read a map? Can you find your way through in a grove or in a forest? Can you recognize poisonous mushrooms from some mushrooms that are actually safe to eat? Do you know how to recognize berries, for example, in a place? Do you know how to boil water? How to make sure you can actually survive? Do you know basic survival? All these things. For example, I've got a friend who not only he's really good at all these things, he's really good at making things with wood. So anything you need, he can make. And he's so good at making stuff that he actually built his own home from scratch. He did and that's an excellent thing to know how to do. Now, of course, I can't do that, but learning basic things, how to set up a tent, how to set up a bonfire, even learning how to hunt. And I have said in one of my videos that I'm against sport hunting, but I'm not against, because I believe in letting the animals live and in the rights of animals. But I am not against hunting in a scenario where it's the only way you can provide some food. So in that case, you might want to know how to hunt, whether it be with a gun or whether it be with a bow and arrow. You never know. It's always good to know how to do that. Even knowing how to make bread, knowing how to produce, for example, basic things, might be a priceless skill to have in a apocalyptic scenario, if you will. Now, I don't wish to sound paranoid or anything. It was like, oh, this guy is out of his mind. You see, better safe than sorry. Better safe than sorry, definitely. We got to prepare for dangerous times, for adversities, because these things happened to other people. They do happen in the world. They might have not happened to you. They might never happen to you. But what if they do? Are you prepared? Ultimately, there is one thing that I personally just wanted to share that has to do with weapons. Yes, I study. Some of you study HEMA, others study martial art, Japanese martial arts. You know, you do. Many of you are familiar and know how to operate certain weapons, and that is something that I myself like and like learning. It's something that I like doing. And you know what Einstein said. I don't know what Third World War will be fought with, what weapons will be used for Third World War, but I know that World War IV will be fought with stones and sticks. That's an interesting thought. You never know. But one thing I do in my home is I always have a weapon in each room in my home. Given some of these are improvised weapons. For example, in the kitchen, of course, I've got my kitchen knives, and I've got a hammer that I keep in a drawer. In my bedroom, I've got a Damascus steel knife. And in my living room, I've got a few swords, and basically in every room I've got, so even if it's even in the bathroom, even I've got a small knife, I've got a hammer, I've got something, I've got a mace, I've got a weapon in every room. Why? Because again, what happens if some criminals, some crazy people, some scavengers, some thieves, someone enters my home in a moment where I'm not in the room where I usually keep my weapons, okay? And I'm in the bedroom or I'm in the bathroom. And then what am I going to do? I'm like, oh, heck, someone broke in my home. And let's say it's a moment of war has broken. You know, there is war. Police is nowhere to be found. There is no law. And, things are going crazy. And these people entered my home. And what am I going to do? Oh, no, I'm not in the kitchen. How am I going to get to the kitchen now? What am I going to do? I've got nothing. Okay, what am I going to take? A pillow? At least I know that in each one of my rooms, there is something that I can use for personal defense. Of course, if you do this, you have to keep in mind, though, that, for example, in my case, I live alone. But if you're living with other people, particularly kids, it's important that you always keep your weapons out of their reach. And I mean absolutely out of the reach. Not in a place where if they get on a chair, they can reach. Not in a place that, you closed with the key, you lock it, but the key is in the lock. Okay, not in a place where if they fiddle a little bit with a stick, they can make it fall. I'm talking about a place that is safe. Your weapon is there, only you can get it. Your kids cannot have access. And in the case of fire weapons, and I'm almost finished with my permit for firearms. Not easy to get in Italy, but finally I managed almost. And then I will have some firearms in my home. But if you have firearms in your home, and if you have like a gun, don't keep it loaded. You've got your gun in your drawer, wherever you have it, and then make sure you have I think they're not called clips, they're called clips in games. I think they're called magazine. Is that correct? I don't know. You tell me how the bullets are called, but I think it's magazine. So you keep the magazine in another place. So you know what it is, but again, your kids do not have access to that. It's either locked or it's too high for them to reach, but it's something that you know where it is. So, and this is against, and make sure it's not even inside, you have to make sure that you're, gun safety. I think you know the rules for gun safety better than me, if you already own a gun. But these things happen. These things happen, and unfortunately we read them in the news after they have happened. It's like, oh, the kid shot himself, this happened, that happened. Then why not spending a couple of minutes here to just let you know, because perhaps out of 160,000 people, I might remind someone who is like, oh yeah, that's right, I should do that, and I might have saved a life, If that's the case, I would be very happy, actually. It's okay saying this, even if it's obvious for the majority of you. It's always good to say it, because with weapons, we need to always remember that they are capable of taking someone else's life. Okay, so this is how I prepare myself for a future scenario, a difficult time in life. save up some money, make sure I've got food storage and water supply in abundance for myself. I train myself with skills that are practical and that I might be able to use in the future if needed. I train myself in martial arts and I learn how to use weapons for self-defense strictly. I learn how to hunt just in case. I learn how to make food, and whether I have an actual cooker or whether I have to make it the old-fashioned way, then I need to know how to do both things. And then again, my personal thing, I tend to keep a weapon in each room available for my own personal defense. Okay, so this was the video I wanted to share with you today. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think. Do you already do food storage? Do you think it's a good idea to spend the money and manage your finances the way I do? Or do you have a better way? Please let me know in the comments below, of course. Alright, number ones, I thank you for your time, and now I think I'm gonna have to lay down a little bit, rest, perhaps watch some Netflix, spend a little bit of time with my other friends. I will see you tomorrow for my next daily upload. And remember, the Metatron has spread his wings. Goodbye. Zombies!